Humans are very good in adapting. So don't underestimate the human potential on getting better.
I'm really excited for this conversation.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
My pleasure, man. I have to tell you, when I was doing a little bit of research into you and the show, I never knew that memory was a thing you could coach on. Like, I always thought you were kind of just born with whatever quality memory you had, and you were just kind of stuck with it. That's really a thing, huh?
It is. I mean, it is like you can really train it by using specific techniques. But the point is, your natural memory, it's not likely that you improve your natural memory. What you do is you train techniques, and these techniques help you to remember more. That's actually the secret, if you can call it like that.
That's really interesting. Is that How do you get into that as a topic of study?
How do you get into that? How I get into that, or how do you get
Yeah.
into that?
Well, how did you get into it?
So I was watching a TV show 20 years ago in Germany. There was a memory coach, and this memory coach taught a celebrity. This celebrity was known as to be a bit dumb. She wasn't, but her image was like that. And he taught her how to memorize a list of 20 random words. And she made it. And I was like, wow, if she can do it, I can do that too. And back then I was in my studies, beginning my studies, and I looked it up in the internet and I did some research, found out about how that works, tested it for myself, and I was overwhelmed in the first place. I was like, wow, this is possible? I couldn't believe that by myself. And then I started getting into it more and more. And now, yeah, 20 years. It's a long time already.
Wow. It's an interesting thing you bring up there too, because I think for a lot of people they associate intelligence with knowing the answer, but there's got to be a part of being able to actually recall the answer too. So I think a lot of people, maybe they'll consume the knowledge, but they're not able to recall it and bring it back out. Right.
Right.
So
I
it's
mean,
not always that they're not smart, but they just can't maybe remember it.
knowing things is, of course, or knowing how things develop, like trying to get the information by deducting and things like that is always possible, of course. But even in different kinds of in history, in vocabulary, whatever, when you want to be sure about your knowledge, it makes sense to memorize at least keywords of your knowledge. So let's say you want to explain something to someone else, a concept or anything like that. It's like giving a presentation. You need keywords. And these keywords, these are the things that you can memorize. Of course, you have to understand the stuff. It's always better if you understand what you're memorizing there, but it's a tool to, let's say, to support you giving your knowledge to others, giving a presentation and things like that.
Well, that's amazing. In your experience, do you think that different people have memories that operate differently, or does memory kind of operate the same way for everybody?
I think the basic strategies are the same for everybody. So there's for example, the method of loci or memory palace method. I think you came across all on that already. This is a basic stuff, and creating images for stuff you want to learn is also very basic. But how these images look like and how much emotion you put into your stories, how much craziness you put into your stories, and even how your memory palace looks like, that's different for the people. But the basic strategies are the same for everyone.
That's interesting. So there's a strategy for putting emotion or drawing pictures to help people recall things easier.
Yeah. So yeah, let's take a look into the basics a
Yeah.
bit here. So the basic strategy, which I always recommend looking into, is the memory palace strategy. With the memory palace, it's always already a strategy which is more than 2,000 years old. Was used by the ancient Greeks to give their free speeches. And what they did was they used a familiar place like their own house or any familiar place they know very well. And they took specific locations in these places. So, for example, for your apartment, it could be like the front door, then maybe the wardrobe, then a chair, whatever it comes next. And this is what you take, and then you want to memorize something. Let's go with a very easy thing like a shopping list. So you have bananas, you have bread, and you have milk, for example. What you do is you connect each item to a location in your apartment. So you would connect the bananas to the front door. So instead of the knob of your door, you have a banana. And you really like bananas. So you come home and say, wow, there's a banana there. So you got emotions. You have a good feeling about it. You have a good feeling about coming home. If you hate bananas, also fine. Then you get, oh, it's disgusting, a banana on my knob here. I don't like it. But that helps you actually remembering things. And then you go inside and then you have bread on the wardrobe. So you put these breads on the wardrobe in your mind, of course. And then you have milk on the chair. So you go to the chair, you sit down, and suddenly your butt is completely wet because of the milk there, and it smells very, very bad already. So these are things you can imagine just visually, but these are also things which touch your emotions somehow, right? Because it's nasty, it's nice, whatever it is. You have joy, you have a good feeling, a bad feeling. So these things are very important to connect to your stories, because what we remember best are emotions. So things that are emotional in your life, you will remember better than things which are very boring. So that's a very important part of our brain. Emotional things are better to remember.
Wow. So then, if I basically create that story where I walk in the front door and I grab the door handle and it's a banana, and then I see some bread on the counter, and then I sit in the chair and sit in milk, because of the story, I'm much more likely to remember those three specific items than if I just said, I need to get these three things when I get to the store, because it's not tied to anything, right? There's no emotional connection to it. It's just three random items.
It's also working, of course. If it's just three items and you don't have any emotional connection to that, it's also working. But building in emotions, building in other stuff helps you to create more connections. And but of course, the visual part is the main part, and everything on top. I mean, for a shopping list, I wouldn't build in too much emotions, to be honest, because it doesn't make so much sense. But there's a lot of other stuff you can learn with that, and building in emotions definitely creates additional connections, additional networks,
Right.
which work better in your brain.
So what about something more practical, like when you meet someone for the first time and you can't remember their name, even though they just told it to you 30 seconds ago? Is that because you're not really registering it? You're trying to pick up other information? Like, what happens there?
So I think for names, especially there, it's two parts. There's the first part is you don't need any memory techniques or anything. The main thing is when you meet a new person, just make yourself aware that you want to memorize the name right now. I mean, there's always like you meet three people and they all tell you their names. I don't know, Eric, Jim, and Wendy, and you don't even recognize it. You just say your own name three times, and then everything is already forgotten. That's a big problem. So the basic strategy here is just make sure that you know, okay, now I learned three new names and I want to remember them. That's half of the thing what you have to do, because if you do that, it's you are more aware of the names, and then you would do the following. You would just say, hey, hello Eric, nice to meet you. Hi Jim, yeah, that's a very interesting hat you have there. Or hi Wendy, nice shoes, whatever. So you would use the name immediately, and you would pay attention to the name. That's the basic strategy everyone can use without doing any memory techniques.
Yeah. What about music? And my question on music is there are songs that you might not have heard for 20 years, but when the song comes on and you hear the music, the sound of the song, you instantly remember the lyrics. Is there a connection between music and memory, something that we can maybe leverage to help us remember things easier or recall certain things?
I mean, I am not a neuroscientist in this area, but I mean, it's obvious, isn't it, somehow? I mean, music is used in movies, for example, everywhere. It's because it makes the whole scene more impressive, more emotional, things like that. And this is also something, I mean, it's not just like you remember the lyrics of the song you heard 20 years ago. You also remember, very likely to remember the situation when you heard that the first time. Sometimes it's such a I don't know, if you met your first girlfriend, or I don't know, you get a good grade at school and you heard a specific song or something like that. So this music is somehow already connected to a wider scene, wider environment there.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure that music is something which helps us a lot remembering things. And yeah, it's definitely something to look into it way deeper.
Yeah, I'm thinking as you're kind of explaining that about the emotion of music. And when you said earlier about creating that story about the bread, the milk, the bananas, about the emotions of everything, and I think you're right. There might be some emotional connection to the music, and that helps you kind of retain it a little bit better. Um, it does make me wonder about this. May be a thing you know or not. Is there a way to remove certain memories or sort of push them back down if they are maybe let's say you have a bad association with something emotionally, and every time you eat a banana, you think about the one time you ate a banana and you found a worm in it, right? Is
Yeah.
there some technique or something to sort of reprogram that memory?
I mean, beside drinking, just kidding. I think the connection is might be quite strong with the banana and this bad situation or something like that. So I don't think that you can get rid of the original connection completely, but I'm pretty sure that you can try to replace that and try every time when you have this banana and this bad thought comes up, try to replace it with a good thought. Every single time you have to be very consistent. You have to be aware in every situation that you have to replace it right now. I think that helps, because in the end you might have this banana, you have a glimpse of that bad feeling, but suddenly the good thing shows up in your mind. So it's really about replacing it and being very consistent with that. But I mean, if I would have a concept for that, it would be great, wouldn't it? Because you could, like bad situations, bad things that happen into your life, you could just try to override it. And
Right.
I think that's also something psychologists sometimes do, that they try to give the situation something good, or try to redefine the outcome of a situation. And yeah, I think the brain is very, very strong in keeping the old memories. But of course, you can try to add something new, add something positive, and turn things around. I think that would be my suggestion here.
Yeah, I like that. It's sort of like if the new memory has such a deep emotion that's even bigger, a bigger, stronger emotion than the negative one. It sort of outweighs that, so that it builds a sort of a new association that you think of more,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I like that. I'm curious for language. How much information do you know on memory and language? Because there are some people who can speak multiple languages, and it always fascinates me how they're able to mentally switch
Mm.
between those sets of languages.
I think some people are really just naturals, so they're just good in languages, and learning new languages very easy. I'm pretty sure that it's quite tough, even with strategies and memory techniques, to get to that level, because these people are just talented and they're very good at it. And if you have one language, okay. If you have two, the third language gets easier. The fourth language gets easier as well, because you have a foundation already, right? But what I always try is, when I teach, for example, kids in school, one basic foundation for learning memory languages is vocabulary, of course. And there is a method, the keyword method. And this keyword method really helps you to improve your vocabulary learning. I actually did, a couple of years ago, for a TV show, a test with a school class, I think fifth grade. So they were about 10 to 12 years old. And we had one class that didn't use any technique, and the other class that did use the keyword method. And I was trying that I was teaching that to them for 1 hour. and training it a bit. And after that, we did a test with Spanish vocabulary. So both classes got the test, and the first class, which did not use any techniques, got like 8 to 10 vocabulary in 5 minutes, right? So they memorized it for 5 minutes, and the other one like 16 to 20. So it's about double the amount of vocabulary that the other class, which with the keyword method learned. So yeah, it definitely shows that you can improve your vocabulary skills with these techniques. But not only that, I'm also working on how to memorize grammar easier and things like that. It's a it's way more complex than a shopping list, of course, but it's definitely possible to improve your language learning skills using memory techniques. It's definitely worth looking into it.
Yeah, I really like that answer. It makes me think too. You said if you have one language versus already having three, learning the fourth one's going to be easier because you have that foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that it made me wonder there is if you continue to level up on your memory and your mental acuity, would that make memory easier in general, right? So for someone who is a perpetual learner who continues to read, to study, to consume new information, does that person have an easier time recalling things, and are they almost putting themselves at an advantage to continue to gain knowledge and get smarter versus the person who just maybe slacks off and doesn't continue to develop?
Definitely. The more you know, the more knowledge you have, the better you can connect this knowledge you already have with new stuff, right? So, for example, what I see is that people who are really, really good in memorizing names, for example, they very often also are good in learning languages. So, or they already have learned 4 languages. And if you see a new name, even if it's an international name, it's not so unfamiliar to you because you have maybe in another language a word which sounds similar or which looks similar. So you have already a lot of knowledge, and the more knowledge you have, the easier you can connect new stuff to that knowledge, because in the end it's all a big network, right? Everything is somehow connected. And if you know a lot in one area or in 2 areas or 3 areas, it becomes easier to add another thing, another area. So yeah, the more you know, the easier it becomes to memorize new things.
Yeah, I really love that. I think it paints a great picture, especially when you talk about it being a network, because it it truly is easier, at least in my experience, when you have these things that you can connect to other examples, other emotions, other stories. And I think it's a great concept that we don't take enough advantage of. Going back to what I said earlier, when you sort of think that you are born with a certain memory and people say, oh, I'm just not good at remembering names, or I'm just not good at this. But it generally you would say is probably not true, right? Everyone, or at least most people, have a capacity to learn and to recall certain things. It's just that they don't utilize it, or maybe they don't know the techniques.
Yeah, I mean, it's also in my opinion, it's always a mistake to say, "Oh, I'm not good in names and faces." It might be true, but the when you start saying that, you always build your own belief system around it, right? So you wouldn't even try to memorize a name because you're not good at it. So I'm not good at it. I don't do that. I see so many people writing down a 3-digit number because they think I can't remember 3 digits. So they're putting out their phone and typing everything in. And the it's important to trust yourself here. And even though you will not never break a world record or become a super names learner or anything like that, you can improve. Everyone can improve their memories with these strategies, using these strategies. So it's a matter of the mindset here, to give it a chance, to give it a try, and not be stuck in your own belief system. Oh, I'm not good at this. Then it's always a problem. So try to overcome that and try to, yeah, be open to new strategies and give it a trial. That will show you, yeah, anything is possible.
Yeah. Are there certain things that will work better for certain people? Um, for example, some people like to write everything down. So when they're studying, they'll rewrite their notes, versus some people will speak them out loud. Are there certain techniques that maybe work better uh, for memory?
I'm pretty sure that this is the case. So um, there are people who might learn more visual, for example. Others might learn more auditive.
Yeah.
So by listening, and it's important that you know what works best for you, and then you should use it, of course. So if you are a more visual learner and you know that when you write things down again, then you know it was on page 1, that was on page 3, on the top, on the bottom, whatever. And if you're more like a auditive learner, then use that as well. Try to record these things, try to listen to things more. So definitely, there are people who are more talented in that or in this. The important thing is that you don't stuck to something what's not working for you. Go with what you are talented in, what you feel that's better. You can always add these other things. So if you're an auditive learner, always also use the visual part. Don't forget to use that. So don't focus too much on one thing, but go with what feels good for you. So if it feels good for you to do it that way, go with it. But be open for other strategies as well.
I like that. Let's talk practicality. So, for someone who is now listening to this podcast and wants to improve their memory, someone who's maybe even brand new to this, who says, I didn't even realize I could do this, where does that person start? Is there some level of memory test where someone could gauge their current starting point and then they can figure out, hey, how do I go from here to the next level?
I mean, the easiest thing is that you give yourself a test by, like, for example, write down 20 random words or let someone else write it down for you. Try to memorize it within 5 minutes or something and see how you recall this, just to give yourself a basic outline here, a baseline for that. And then I feel that I mentioned it a couple of times. The memory palace method is the best thing to start with. So what you would create very basic 10 locations or 20 locations in your apartment, like the door, like the wardrobe and the chair. Make it 20. It's very easy for everyone. I mean, just go through your apartment, not just randomly. Go like along the wall, always along the wall. You have the chair, and then the next thing comes, and the next thing, the lamp or whatever. And maybe just write down these 20 locations in the first place. And what you do next is write down another list, or let someone else write you down a list of 20 random words, and now make these connections between the first word and the first location. And you do that for all these 20 items. And yeah, see how it works for you. And I'm pretty sure you will double your result from the first one without any technique. So the memory palace technique is the most powerful technique you can start with, and I think it's worth giving it a try. So look it up, and don't overthink it. Just do it. Just create 20 locations in your apartment, write them down, connect these two random words, and see how it works for you. So I think that will give you a hint how good these techniques are.
I like that. And so, just so I understand it better, I wouldn't just pick 20 random things in my apartment because then I'm going to forget which 20 I picked, right?
It's about
I would want
logic.
to.
There should be a logic in your locations you pick, and this logic could be the way how they are arranged in your apartment. So you enter the door, and then you go clockwise around your room or around your apartment, and then you see there's a board, there's a shelf, there's a couch, there's a TV, whatever. So give it a logic, and you can do that without looking into your apartment because you know it very well already. That's quite easy. Just pick 20, give it a logic. So test yourself. Okay, number 1 was that, number 2 was that. Will work very easy for you, and then you're already good to go.
So one of the things I'm hearing you say is there's a lot of intentionality with this in terms of if you want to have a better memory, if you intentionally work on it, it's relatively easy to improve, right? But I think for a lot of people, it's just the thing that they just assume is good or is bad, and they don't know that they can intentionally install things in their memory or improve upon them rather than just, hey, you read a book and you hope you just gain some information just because you read it.
Exactly.
You're not intentionally consuming it.
That's a very good point. Always when I coach people, there are always people who think that I just like push a button on their memory or on their brain somehow, and then they are getting better. But it's not the case. It's unfortunately you have to do something for that. So it's about creating or learning these tools. It's about creating or learning these strategies and techniques. But it's like for everything else. If you want to play the violin, it doesn't help you if I give you a violin. You have to know how to use that violin. And this is about practice, about training. But the cool thing is that you get first results very, very quick, and that's a better, or that's easier than playing the violin. For the violin, it takes a while to get some nice noise sounds there, but for memory techniques, it's very, very quick. So that gives you motivation. But in the end, it's not just pressing a button or taking a pill or just listening to me and then you're a better memorizer. You need to test these things and you need to practice that. And that's what I always do with my clients. So I try that with their own apartment. I create something, and then they feel, wow, it works for me. And this is the first step. And then you have to do it by your own, right? You have to be patient. You have to do it maybe every day for 10 minutes only. That's enough. But you have to do it regularly. That's so important. Like brushing your teeth, you can do that once a month for 2 hours, but that doesn't help you so much. So do it every
Right.
day. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that you brought up the analogy of playing the violin because I think it's a really clear example of you. You know, a lot of people don't expect to just naturally be able to play a violin or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's a skill that you learn and you improve on. And I think to go back to our earlier point, for someone who has some basic knowledge of playing the piano, maybe playing a guitar, they can then pick up a violin and it'll be much easier for them to learn because they have other knowledge to fall back on. Like we talked about before, when you continue to learn and you continue to gain new skills, it's easier to level up in these other areas.
Mm-hmm.
So I really love that analogy, and I think it's a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the other techniques people might use to increase their memory if the Palace one isn't one that they would connect with?
Other techniques. I mean, it's always about. Let me drink something. Wait. It's always about creating images. That's the most important part. And I think. Wait, give me a second. Just take a note. We have this. We have this in Germany, in Europe. We have these on the top of the bottle, these cups, this Deckel, I don't know the name of it. It's attached to the bottle. You know that in Europe?
Yeah, it's not two separate pieces.
No, it's fixed. It's very nasty.
Is there a reason why?
It's a regulation in Europe that we don't produce so much waste. I was to the US recently, and it was like freedom. You can pick it up, and it's fine again. But other different story. So yeah. So what you have to do is, or what there are other technique like memory palace and the storytelling method, which is not using a memory palace, but you create a story between your items you want to learn. For example, you have different techniques for names and faces, for vocabulary, the keyword method, for example, for vocabulary. In the end, it all relates to the same stuff, right? It's always a crowd creating images using a palace or whatever, but you can learn different stuff. And it depends on the topic or on the stuff you want to learn, which technique works best for you. In the end, it all goes down to creating images and memorizing them with stories, with emotions, with feelings. But the exact way how you do it depends on the stuff you want to learn.
Well, so let's switch a little bit. I know for you, you've been sort of fighting a muscle disease for a long period of time, and that has put you into be reliant on a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So with that, you've sort of decided to rely more heavily on your ability to train your brain. Is that right?
Yeah, you could say it like this. It was like I was starting with memory techniques when I was like 22 years old, and at the same time, my muscle disease became stronger and stronger and worse and worse. And I was always like a very challenging, very competitive person. So I played table tennis at school, and I always liked to compete. And it wasn't possible with this disease anymore. And it really hit me when I was like beginning of 20s, and at the same time I was discovering these memory techniques and going into these competitions, and it was really like, wow, I can do that. I can improve my memory. I can compete with others. It's like going to a German championship or to an international one, at one place to a world championship. And that was, yeah, giving me some motivation to do that even more. It was like, yeah, like giving me more a balance with my disease, with my weakness and muscle disease, but with my, and on the other hand, I could improve here and get better results every day. So that was really something what was pushing me forward. And also, I mean, all these this disease is quite tough, or was quite tough for me to handle, because I mean, mentally it's quite tough if you are in the beginning of your 20s, or no matter what age you are, but you're getting weaker and weaker physically. And I was falling down on the floor just randomly. I couldn't get up by my own anymore. I was really frustrated. Got some depressions out of that. Was going to a psychologist, and on the other hand, I had this. I had something what motivates me, what was really nice to do, and I was, yeah, somehow I was like hell on the one side, but on the heaven side. It's a bit too much, but you know what I mean. It was on the other side the motivation to keep on going and to do something what I love. That was really motivating for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, for me personally, it's really inspiring to see the way that you continue to operate and continue to push forward. Because I think for a lot of people, they would use that sort of as a stopping point and say, "Poor me, I've got this muscle disease. I'm unable to do X, Y, and Z. My life is over." But sort of what I'm seeing from you is you've almost used it as an opportunity to go even harder on the other side.
Mm.
Say, now I'm going to push even more on this part, and I'm going to help other people level up themselves as well. So I think there's one component of being able to do it just for yourself, which is amazing. But the selflessness of coming back and saying, I'm also going to help other people experience the same level of memory and learning and growth is really just amazing. So honor to you for that.
Thank you very much. But to be honest, I think what you said is that most people would just sit there and be sorry for themselves. I kind of doubt it, because, of course, there would be people who just sit there and be sorry for themselves. But I know a lot of people with disabilities, and everyone has something, something, or found something, or many of these found something, what they can do, and they go on with their lives. So I feel that it's always a bit like a, for someone who has no disease or who is healthy, always feels like, oh, if I would have that, it would be very bad. And of course, it would be in the first place. But humans are very good in adapting. And if you would get something like that, you would also maybe get very depressed, maybe in the first place, and it would be hard. But many people have the potential to overcome that. So don't underestimate the human potential on getting better. So that's my, I would say, my my advice here. Don't be sorry for the people who have that, because they have found something in it, and many people could do the same. So I'm not very special. I don't think that. But yeah, of course, I'm in a situation that I have it right now, and I have to overcome that so I can show off here. It's easy if you have it to show off. Yeah, I'm not sure if you get it or get the point. I hope
Yeah.
you get the point here, but yeah, that's what I want to say here.
Yeah. And I believe you're right. Like, we have the potential to overcome and adapt and be even better. I think the hardest part is sort of getting out of our own way in that initial depression part.
Yeah,
I believe most people will go through that initial depression part, but I think some people get stuck there, as it's kind of hard to overcome without examples of possibility, right? Without seeing, hey, this person also
Yes.
shared the same thing, but they were able to go even further.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel it's also important to get help. If you need help, ask for help. That was something what I was struggling in the beginning. I was trying to manage everything by my own. I was not trying, or I was trying to avoid help. That's not a good thing. Help isn't something bad. It's not making you a worse person or a weak person at all. It's something what we need sometimes in life. So if you need help, if you feel I can't do that on my own anymore, try to speak to someone, try to get some help. And that's not a weak thing. It's in the contrary. Getting help isn't easy at all in the beginning. And yeah, so help and people around you are also very important, beside the fact, of course, that you have to try it somehow by yourself and try to be strong mentally.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the way that you say it. It really is a great mentality to have, that we are not insufficient because we need help, right? Just like one person may have one ability that's a little bit stronger than the other person's, when all of us understand our gifts, right? We understand what our weak spots are and we acknowledge them, and then we come together. That's what I think makes the most beautiful outcome, is when we all operate in our gift and lean
Yeah.
on the other people around us to kind of support us in our weak areas.
It's perfectly said. I mean, it's so obvious. I mean, in the Stone Age, you wouldn't survive by yourself. You need people to hunt the mammoth, right? The big elephants, and that's the same. You have everyone has his or her special gifts or talents or whatever, and we need to work together. That's important.
Yeah. What would you say is next for you?
Hmm. It's a very interesting question because it's the end of the year, and by the end of the year, I was reflecting a bit more and trying to figure out what's next. Um, I mean, I have won this world championship twice, in the memory world championship. I have won the German championship 7 times, and I'm still on a very good level. I'm still in the top 10 in the world, and doing memory competitions still is something I would like to do. But on the other hand, I have to put so much work into it to get on the same level like all the young guns who are 20 years younger than me. So it's still I'm still I'm still like I want to do that. I want to compete, but I also want to spread the word about memory sports. So I have my Twitch channel. I will stream a lot, or I try to stream more next year to get it more to the audience, to show what's possible. There's a world championship in January where I am not participating this time. I would stream it. I will will do commentary on it. That will be fun. But yeah, I'm still looking out or trying to find a way how to spread the word more about memory sports and growing here and giving a wider reach, reaching more people with that. I think that's something I want to do. And personally, of course, growing my own business a bit more with giving speeches so I can make a living a bit better than right now. It's okay, but it could be better. And yeah, all these things under one roof, this is not so easy. Yeah, and then of course, getting more connected with my little nieces who are 5 and 1 year old right now. So things like that, family wise, friends wise, business wise. But I think the main thing and my love goes into spreading the word about memory sports and growing that somehow. I don't know how exactly, getting a sponsor, even a small one, and finding someone who supports me a bit so I can do more content, do more streaming, things like that. Yeah. We should do the interview again next week so I can give you more insight in what I was reflecting on. But yeah, that's what comes to my mind right now.
Yeah, I love that. And I'll tell you what, I never knew memory sports existed until this conversation.
Yeah.
So you've turned on more than a few people to that. And we'll certainly continue to support you and your ventures in any way that we can.
Thank you.
Um, Thank you. I appreciate the work that you're doing. It's literally life changing for some people. And I think without having these kind of conversations, there are a lot of people who are not going to be living to their full potential. So again, tremendous honor to you doing what you've done and continuing to come back and help serve other people. It's honorable. So thank you for
Thank
that.
you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Any final words? Something you might want to share?
Yeah, I mean, give it a try. Give it a try. That's what I want to send out here, because many people might listen to it and yeah, it's tough, but this guy, okay, is special or has a special talent or whatever. No, it's not the case. I mean, I might have a talent somehow, because becoming a world champion, that's not something you just do without any talent. I'm pretty sure about that. But you don't need talent to improve your memory. So please do me a favor and give it a trial. And maybe write back to you, Jim, and how it worked for the people. I would love to know about that. So give it a trial, create a memory palace, memorize some words, and yeah, send feedback how it worked for you. That would be a fantastic outcome out of these podcasts here. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that. And I think even if someone is not aspiring to be the next memory world champion, that doesn't mean that they can't aspire to be better tomorrow than they are today. Right.
Exactly.
So I think that's a great way to put it. Well, again, honor and tremendous thank you to you for doing what you do. And we'll continue to support. And I will personally come back and tell you how my memory has improved, because I am eager to test that out and see how it goes.
Cool. Yeah, check also out my Twitch channel in January. It's a great chance to get into that, because the best memory athletes in the world are there, and you can get some tips. So just some advertisement from my side. Thank you.
Perfect. I love it.
Cool.
Great. Thank you again.
Thank you, Jim, and yeah, have a nice